As good as my pastor is, I know he's probably not in the top 10 preachers of all time, and I can find all 10 of those sermons, online.
Well, that's what I love about podcasts, right? Because, if I were to read a book, I am limited on the information. I mean, I can consume, but then if I have a question arise, I can't do much about that. If I'm at church, I can consume, but I'm not really have the right unless I go up after and ask the pastor, what does he think about this? And if he feels it's challenging enough, or he has the answer, he'll give it to me. But for the most part, we're looked at as being consumers, not enlighteners, and or to be able to answer the questions that we actually have. So I think there's like that void that we're constantly feeling like we're not getting our answers. We're getting somebody else's answers but not our answers. And so like with the podcast, where I said I love so much about it is you say something and I can say, hey, and then you can immediately reply, and I say, yeah, but, and then you reply again, and then I'm like, well, that makes sense, and then reply again. And so constantly I'm getting fed by this, which, what a wonderful dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. Real privilege. I mean, I bet most people would love that. They're probably listening to this podcast going, yeah, I would like to ask questions. These guys make no sense at all.
Idiots.
Yeah, ask the right questions. Say the right thing, Phil. So I think... We're starting to move into a very different world. I think that's what the main thing is. The majority of the world for the last 2,000 years has been at stage blue. Up until the Enlightenment, that was where we were. And as of the Enlightenment, we started to move into orange. But it's taken us a couple hundred years to really get that underway. And even still, we're still on the cusp of it in a lot of the world. And the vast majority, you go into Africa and Asia, they're very much still at blue. Very much. And so... they're far from moving into the kind of modern stage, maybe a couple places here and there. And so we're kind of forging ahead, and we don't really have a model, especially Europe, which is really pushing forward. And it scares everyone because Europe are crazy, right? But also they're also pioneering some of the most beautiful stuff there is. And so with every stage there's good and bad, and there's an element of like, the danger is that with there being at every stage a good and bad, if you're comfortable in your current stage, you're only going to see the bad of the other stages. You're not going to see the good. And so you see this again and again and again. It's a bit like the Democrat-Republican element I mentioned. Democrats and Republicans never can tell you the 5 things they love about the other side. I don't know why, because there's probably loads about each side that are doing fantastic things and believe fantastic things, because it's such a complex and heated and multi-faceted element. Politics, I mean, there's probably hundreds of thousands of political issues. I'm sure they've got 5 things you can agree with, but we don't.
It's even like
focus on what we don't
for all.
like.
I can see why a Democrat would say healthcare for all. That is very helpful to serve people,
Yeah, absolutely.
But then I'm sitting there thinking about the finance, and I'm like, I don't know,
Yep.
Or socialism, I can see where that would help the poorest of the poor. The problem is it doesn't help the richest of the rich.
No.
And so then and I can look at Republicans and I can say, well, I can see why capitalists, but then, I can see where Democrats say we should tax more so that we can get some more of that money so that we can fund something. I can see both sides openly and honestly and say, that makes sense. But the way that we're going about it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it tends to be very black and white. So we do this in all the different ways. And so what happens in the church, when we're very comfortable with status quo, we're very comfortable with our certainty, with our safety, we're very happy just trusting the pastor, who trusts the seminary, who trusts, we just trace back at some point and no one's asked any questions for about 300 years or something, but we're very happy with this model. It's very easy for them to see someone who starts asking questions as a threat and be very scared. And so this is another element that's really important, is we can't demonize people who are at any stage. And so, of course, people that are very stage blue are going to be scared by someone that asks questions. We have to have grace for that. We have to go, of course that's the case, in the same way that like a young kid, if you go to a 5-year-old and explain that none of us actually know what's going on in life and we're completely confused and it's absolutely terrifying, which all of us probably, if we're going to be honest, is true of life, right? We have no idea which way's up.
I don't want to be 4 again.
We're still all basically 12-year-olds, right? And so there's an element of like, that would terrify a young child. They need some certainty. They need some stability. And it's the same for people that culturally are at that stage in the church. They need the stability. Don't question their hell. They are really comfortable knowing that there is a hell and I'm not going there. Right. If you start questioning it, well, what does it look like? And maybe I am going there. Don't freak me out, And so there's an element where certain people at each stage are ready to be pushed, are ready to be nudged. They've started to get to the limitations of their stage. But a lot of people aren't there and they will not move. And we've all met that person. We've all had a conversation with the person and you're like, this is not ready to pop. We're not going to go there, Right. So you have a conversation with someone and it's about whatever and they can kind of see your arguments, but you can see them just every time they start opening up and going, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. But then they shut down. You can go, they're just not ready. They're too scared to move on. And that's okay. It really is okay. If it wasn't okay, God wouldn't have had us at a certain stage for the last 2,000 years. He can operate with that.
Well, I even loved the other night we were, in kind of a Q&A and somebody, they didn't want to say the question, like they didn't want to open a can of worms, but they wanted to open the can of worms,
yep.
And they're like, ask about being gay, because I got some friends who are gay and like they even stated. And so, that's kind of where you're talking about with the blue is, the tradition. Well, gay is not fit in our tradition.
Yeah.
But then with the orange, I've got these questions because I got really great quality friends and people who are gay and seemingly don't want to change and convert back to what traditional people call man and woman, know? And so, and it's almost like she was a little bit hesitant coming out of the blue. Mm-hmm. Am I safe in this orange area?
Is this safe? Because I know if I've misread it and this is actually a blue environment, people are going to, like that, they're going to turn on me potentially, right? If we were very, very traditional blue people and she misread it and she says, I've got friends that are gay and I'm just wondering, is it okay? We might have really jumped down
Absolutely not.
Right? It's very possible. And in saying that, a lot of pastors are very gracious and very understanding and very caring. They're not going to jump down your throat necessarily, but I know many also will. So it just depends. It's a bit of a dice roll, that one, But I think it's being more conscious. So the reason I love to talk about this is it helps us understand maybe a little bit of where we are. Now, I will say this, based on this very short introductory kind of concept, do not try and like peg yourself too quickly. I have 17 hours of teaching on this and it's short, it's too short. But it goes through each of the stages for about 3 hours each, and really goes in. And so if you really want to dive into this, I would encourage you to really do some deep study on it. But when you start to understand it at least roughly, oh, that's where someone is at. Not so, because the danger is we come out of this, right? Maybe we're at stage orange and we come out and go, blue, what are you going to do? Classic blue, or we become very judgmental. That's not the goal at all. The reason that we understand the stages is so we can interact with people in a healthy way, right? So you don't look down on a teenager and go, teenagers, what a bunch of idiots. You go, oh, teenagers are probably starting to understand that their parents don't have all the answers. They're starting to explore. They're starting to ask their own questions. They're starting to form their own ideas. I can come alongside someone like that and get alongside them and really help shape that and encourage that in a really healthy way. Or I can go, you're teenagers, you know nothing. What are you, you don't really know anything. You just think you know everything at this stage in life. Two very different approaches, right? One's the judgmental stage that just shuts down any conversation, shuts down my opportunity to really help them and encourage them. The other opportunity is that the other way is to look at where they're at and engage with them in a totally different way than I'd engage with some of my other peers, but helps them grow, helps them develop, helps them get the most out of the stage they're at. And I think that's what we're looking to do here.